You're tuned in to Just One Hot Mom with host Nanika Ansari. Get ready. She's about to bring you that fire, that flavor, that heat, all that passion, and more from around the world and in your neighborhood. Stay tuned.
Hey, Hot Peeps, it's your girl Nanika Ansari here of Just One Hot Mom, and I am so happy to be in the studio this week for my second time. I told you guys you were going to get a double dose this week because I'm healthy again. I think I still got a little horsey, raspy voice, but I'm getting all my energy back. I am in the studio today though with somebody I cannot wait to interrogate. That's what I was like. I have so many questions, and I'm so excited that she's here. I'm here with Rachel Scott of Better Than Blended.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rachel?
Good.
I am so excited to get into this conversation. The more I told people, it's like people were like, "Oh, what's Better Than Blended?" One person thought like, "Oh, if you have mixed people in your family,
we get that."
I'm like, no. I'm like blended families. Well, what's a blended family? So I'm going to let the expert explain what is a blended family.
I love that you started off with that dynamic because it can be that dynamic as well. But what we usually are referring to is when a husband and wife and they come together, or when a couple comes together, and at least one of the parents has a set of children that they're bringing into the relationship, and they're all trying to blend and get to know each other.
And see, I like that version of a blended family. Like, I don't know, the other one is kind of a mixed family to me,
right.
But the blended family. And so I'm excited to have this conversation, and hopefully, like I told you guys earlier on my live feed, to hope to heal and to help some families learn to be better than blended, because we're better than that. We're better than having these broken homes, these broken relationships. Our kids are better than that, and we are better than that as parents. So can you describe some of the services provided by Better Than Blended?
Absolutely. So what we do is we provide resources, support, and community to blended families. So that can be through a website, through our website, the blogs that we offer. We have a panel of contributors that speak on the blended family dynamics because we don't know everything. And there are so many different aspects that we may not be able to speak to, but someone else can. So we also provide resources for people going through custody court battles, and just so many other resources. Mentoring is a huge one that we do as well.
And see, is it mentoring for our entire families or mentoring for the parents of those families?
So it actually goes two ways. We have mentoring for the individuals. We often mentor people going through custody and court battles because that can be emotionally challenging, and for the couples that are starting their blended family, within their blended family, anywhere along the road.
Okay, cool. Because I was always wondering, like, how do you mentor another adult? That people say like adults are already set in their ways.
Right.
So teaching them, like, I think I already know a bunch of stuff, but you can always teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
So I'm ready to learn and to figure it out. If you guys want to call in, the number is 440-252-0518. So let's get into it.
Yes.
So how did you become a blended family?
Well, I actually have been a blended family since I was little. So I was an ours baby, so to speak.
Okay.
So my parents came together, and they have both been in relationships. My dad's first wife, he was married. They got divorced, and then she passed shortly after that. Mm-hmm. And then my mom was married, and she had gotten divorced. Well, my dad had 3 children. My mom had 2, and then they had 2 together, which is my sister and myself. And then my husband and he had 3 children. I had 2, and then we had 2 together. So what are the odds of that, first of all? Like, what is happening right now?
Your story is repeating itself.
Right.
Okay.
And so, it's really been a dynamic that's been a part of my life. I was born into a blended family.
And see, I think people don't realize that blended families are actually taking over. We're not saying get rid of the traditional family, but what we're saying is to embrace a different type of family. Because Absolutely. I find to me, it will be easier if all the parents can get along. And I think it's better for the children if they can see us getting along and being friendly one another. I might not love you today, but I could at least act like I like you. You know what I'm saying?
But all that takes time. It really takes time. It takes healing. It takes growth. It takes biting the bullet sometimes. It takes, it's a lot.
Okay, so you guys become a blended family.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates you to start Better Than Blended? Like, was there a particular situation that happened in the home or in the relationships that you're like, oh, we need to resolve this, and you become Better Than Blended?
So literally what happened was we became a blended family. I realized that I was living the same dynamic as what I kind of grew up in. And growing up, I didn't have that setup where our families came together and we did holidays together, we did birthdays together. I literally was like was by myself. So with that, I knew that when I realized that the dynamics were so similar, I wanted to have something different for our family. And it really just helped me to be more intentional with everything that I did going forward with my family. So it really was birthed out of my own personal desire for something a little bit different. I think growing up was like a horrible experience, but I mean, who doesn't want to have holidays with their siblings? Who doesn't want to have birthdays and with their siblings and together time? So that really birthed it, is just that personal desire.
So the seed was planted and you guys just took off with it.
Right. And there weren't that many resources, like barely any resources to help. That was the other big thing. Like we're going through real life now and I don't have anything to help me.
And see, that's the thing I like about it, though, that it's real life experience. So it's not like experts are great, but I think when you get to experience it for yourself, then you can really speak to somebody like, I can give you a story about what happened. You can be like, we went through that too, and here's what we used to resolve it. Because most of the time, people are really looking for your real life clarification on stuff.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sure experts are fine, you know what I'm saying? They can give you the data, they can give you the expert facts of what it is, but when you know somebody who's living, going through it, then at that moment you're like, okay, you went through it, I know it's possible.
Right.
Okay, so how many of y'all is again?
There are 7 of us all together.
7.
Well, 7 children, 2 adults, of course, so it's 9.
Any pets?
No, we don't have any
Because
pets.
I always tell people, like, it's a bunch of us and a dog. You know, we got a dog, so you got to include.
We have allergies, so that kind of cuts that out.
Okay, so getting deeper into the conversation, so you start this blended family. Do you think that it's harder for the mom or the dad of the bonus kids? Because we said that these kids were bonus. They're not step kids. They're bonus kids. Do you find that it's harder for one sex over the other to engage in this blended dynamic?
I would have to say not really. I think that the challenges are uniquely different. So what makes it difficult for the male is going to be something different that makes it difficult for the women. I think women really struggle with rejection and the men struggle with discipline.
Okay.
So they have their own unique struggles.
And so, but how do you guys help them cope with those individual struggles?
And not so much cope, but find what works within their family. So what works in my household may not work in your household because you may not have the same outside influences that create where you can't handle it this specific way. But we find what works best for them with the knowledge base that we can share with them. So we share our experiences and then we kind of navigate and see what's working in your household already. Because every household has something that's working, but a lot of times the couples aren't on the same page with what that is.
Okay, so it's a matter of getting them to work together to be able to influence the rest of the entire family. So that's a smart thing. Because most of the time we think like, couples think like, we got it together, we got this, and they don't realize that you're not even in the same book. Right. So you need to get on the same book, same book and on the same page.
And then what we have also found is that a lot of couples, they're bringing in their own family dynamics and their own family culture, and this is how my mom handled discipline, this is how my mom handled discipline, and they don't have a way of handling things within their home that works for all the changing dynamics within their home. So and that's huge.
You got to think about it too, though, that when the bonus kids go back to their own, you know what I'm saying, to the other homes, then it's like they are in a different culture as well, because I'm sure that what's going on in one house can't, you know, it could be, but most likely it's not the same thing that's going on in your house.
Right.
Okay, so we can explain to people what the bonus is, because like I don't refer to my brother as my stepbrother. He's just my brother.
Right.
You know, can you tell people why I think it's important not to refer to somebody as the step, but it's like the bonus? I think, you know, a bonus gives it.
And I just say brother or sister. So I think everyone has something a little different. I think really the goal is unity. So in order to create unity, you have to have roles that are the same. So to speak, if this is my brother, this is my sister, then I can embrace you in that manner. But as soon as I kind of add some extra titles to it, it unintentionally creates division, even though we don't mean to do it that
on
way.
Purpose. Yes. I don't know. I always felt like step means like he was supposed to step to the side.
Right. Or I heard someone say like walking up steps. So like walking on somebody. I don't know.
Over
like,
you.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like, so I never wanted him to feel like he was excluded from our brother-sister relationship. I always wanted him to, I'm like, you're just my brother. Like, we're not even going to say step, you know, but I was like, our call like my daughter's kids, because I was telling you earlier, I have the same dynamic. Like I have 2 kids from my first marriage, and then I was divorced, and then I have a baby with a significant other, and so that's like and then her brothers and sisters become the bonus kids, and so because I never want them to feel like, oh, you know, just daddy and this lady have this baby together, and that's just the whole dynamic. So that's why I wanted to make sure that people understood what the bonus part of it was. It's a celebration, people. Celebrate the fact that you got other kids coming in. And for me, I love the kids, but I also love that they can go.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, that's just being honest. But you brought some books with you, and I'm really interested in for you to tell us about these books before we get further into the conversation, because this one here, this is 40 and 7, a practical guide to having peace during a custody battle.
Yes.
Why did you come up with this one?
Because I went through a custody battle and I needed some peace. Okay.
See, there is peace, people. She's written a book about it.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about finding that peace?
Well, really, it's the internal peace. So it's really just steps that God pretty much gave me to be able to navigate through the frustrations, the emotions, so that I could really just live my life and still have the custody battle going on, because it almost stopped me in my tracks because it was so overwhelming and difficult.
And see, I don't think people realize that, though, that custody battles, like, it could just, I'm sure you both want what's best for the kids. You know what I'm saying? That everybody's fighting for their rights, and you're fighting for the rights of your children according to what you think is best for them. And so it does become, it's very draining, because I've been in the custody battle. It's draining, it's overwhelming, and it's like if you don't know somebody that's gone through it, then you can't explain what it is exactly that you need in that piece. So I'm so happy. Y'all need to look into this, because I'm telling you, if you're going through a custody battle, you're definitely going to need some peace. I wanted to hurry up and mention that. The R child. Now, you have 2 R children.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you guys handle telling the bonus kids about the R children? Like, how do you do that?
So, I mean, pretty much the way that our family dynamic is that my older children, their mom passed, so we have 3, and then we have the 2, and their dad is still in the picture, and then we have ours together. Okay. And so they're all in the household together all the time, unless they're gone for one reason or the other. Usually it's when my kids are going to visit their dad. That's really when they start to realize, like, this isn't making any sense, right? And the 2-year-old, he doesn't know here or there. Right. And I think my 5-year-old is the one that typically will ask more questions, but at first she was just kind of like, okay, they're with their dad, because in our house, I mean, I'm mom and he's daddy, and that's just kind of how we do things in our home. But every home setup is a little bit different. And even the older ones, they don't call me mommy, they call me Miss Rachel, and that's fine with me too. But anyhow, she ended up having a conversation, and I honestly had no clue how to answer it. Even though I'm like an R baby, I didn't know how to answer it.
I read your blog post about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, because I know my daughter is 5 now, and I'm like, are we going to have this conversation with her? Because she is really like, my son goes off with his granddad. She's like, well, that's my granddad too. And I'm like, not really. But I have to say, the grandparents have been awesome about it. They like, just let it flow.
Right.
But how do you start off that conversation? Like, let me explain it to you.
Right. I mean, I really just went into kind of how the relationship dynamic changed and how we didn't get along that well, trying to just really cater to what's age appropriate for her. So we ended up not together. And then I went into kind of how my husband and I met. And then toward the end, because she still was a little confused, because I mean, how do you really break down relationship dynamics to a 5-year-old? But toward the end, I just really kind of more so shared her story and how she came about and how excited we were and how, we were like, we looked for her name and all these things. And so she began to understand a little bit for what she needed to understand. But then as we shifted it let her know, like, well, I'm wanted. I'm still a part of the family. Like, they still love me, and I don't understand everything still, but I mean, I guess, like, their dad is different, and, But
I like how you called it our baby, because initially when I thought our baby, it was the baby between you and your husband. But our baby is really the family baby, because that's really what connects the family all together. Because they're blood siblings, it brings it all together. So I like the thought of the our baby. But I was like, how do you do that conversation?
It's hard, and it depends on the age of the child, and really, like, just you just got to think through it. I wish I could just say there's like this one way to do it. I'm just like, okay, give me a
I don't think there's ever one way to have any of these conversations because blended families, one, I just want to say, I don't think blended families are new. We just didn't acknowledge them before. Right. It was like, these kids stay with their mom and they did this thing. These kids stay with their dad and they did their thing. And we never married the families together. And I see more in society now that, like, I can go hang out at your mother's, grandmother's house and we all become friends. And so blended families are becoming the norm.
It is.
And so why do you think now it's a little more accepted than it would have been maybe, I would say, even 5 years ago?
I really think that it's beginning to be more obvious that you can't run from something that's happening. I mean, relationships are changing. People are passing. Relationships are changing. And so when you bring all those dynamics, you can't just ignore the reality that I can't address relationships the same then as I do now because the dynamics are just totally different. I'm not sure exactly why that is the case, but I think the key is that people need to acknowledge that it's happening and respond to it so that the families can still experience unity and wholeness.
And see, I like that because I'm bringing everybody together for the greater good of the children. I think when you take your feelings, us as adults, like I always tell people, like, our kids didn't ask to be here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when we put our mixed emotions in with that, we're not allowing them the freedom to become who they are based on our emotions. And so I like the fact that you guys are helping people navigate to see how you can become a better family together. And so how are you coaching people when it comes to, because like we can be accepting of a blended family, but then there's your family outside of the blended family. How are you coaching people when they're dealing with those situations? Because I'm sure there's always that one family member like, don't let her do your daughter's hair or don't let her pick out her clothes and like that. How are you helping families navigate that? Because it can't be easy when you got this, that's your family.
Outside influences. And that's a major factor. Like, outside influences are often some of the greatest challenges within the home. But really the key is to make your home solid. So have consistency in your home. Just really teaching them to know what are the standards of their home, what are the expectations of their home, what is the system that they want things to operate under, what is the foundation of their home. I feel like when they understand and make that solid, then everything else almost, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but you have that central location to go back to. You have that mindset to go back to. So it's like everything is always tested against the truth of what the truth is for your home.
Okay, do you feel like you have to defend that, though, to other family members? Like, why you've opted to have this type of family? Do you think that it's necessary for people to defend that, or do you just brush that person off?
Excuse me. I would say no. I would definitely say that the dynamics between you and how everything came about, unfortunately, everybody's life isn't perfect, and everyone doesn't have this perfect story of how their relationships came about. And we don't necessarily have to answer to people as to why our situations are the way that they are, because we're not asking them. So at the end of the day, you just have to be confident and comfortable with your family dynamic, why things are the way that they are in your home, and operate under that. Because if you aren't, there's going to be so many other factors. I'm a hand talker.
I'm trying to be good today.
There's going to be
oh my
goodness. So many other factors, and people will always have an opinion. You're always going to have an opinion. So you need to know what your truth is and what your fact is and operate in that.
Okay. So what is the core foundation of Better Than Blended? Like, what is the thing that you guys built this on and that you use that whenever? Because I know I go back to, like, I want to help women branch out and be better in whatever capacity of life that they're in. What is your core foundation for Better Than Blended?
Ours is that we just believe that just because you're blended doesn't mean that you have to be broken. Ooh. And so many blended families,
I like that.
Feel like because what led to being blended, usually the broken situation, that they have to stay in that place. There are things to help you navigate through the brokenness and experience unity and wholeness within your home.
See, I'm glad you brought up that brokenness, because here's my next question. Is when a person, say for instance, you have two people that are getting into a relationship and they have kids and they're bringing in, do you believe that they should go to counseling and heal their individual brokenness and then come together? Because do you think their brokenness will affect the family? That was like 5 questions.
I mean, I would honestly say, and this is just me speaking, definitely not from advice, but just from like a wisdom perspective, that's going to be individualized, because some things you don't find out until you're in the relationship.
Okay.
Like some levels of brokenness are very clear prior to the relationship, and everybody is going into the relationship with some brokenness. I mean, that's just period. No matter if you're the person that doesn't have any kids and you're entering in, or however it goes. But I truly believe that as you navigate through, you'll see some things at the beginning. You're going to see some things during, and just always being open to seeking advice or to seeking additional help while you're going through it. One thing that we have found is that people struggle silently. Mm-hmm. And the silent struggle isn't when people come out. They come out when the struggle has become unbearable. Mm-hmm. But if more people would come to a therapist or get mentoring or just, get some counseling during the silent struggle, that big blow up that makes you want to run out the door wouldn't even happen.
See, I'm so glad you said therapy, because I've been trying to convince people like therapy is a good thing, especially when you don't know how to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to a point that you don't know how to talk to each other and the only thing that you can do is argue with each other, you're not really resolving anything. And the kids see that.
Right.
And so I think that gives them a bad vibe about being in the blended family. Like, I want my situation to stay together because I don't want to grow up the way I grow up. Like, I had 2 moms and all that stuff. So I like the fact that you guys are navigating your life together while coaching these other parents. But you also found other blended families that are so right for them. Let me tell you, I get all inside people's business when I'm investigating and finding out for a bit. Like, we're going to do a show. Let me go and be nosy. Excuse me. So where did you find these other families, and how did you approach them about coming a part of Better Than Blended?
So the panel.
Yes.
One morning I felt led to put a Facebook post out there, and literally we had a panel before, and pretty much all the people on that panel kind of dissipated and they had their own life situations going on. So literally the whole panel dissolved, but all is well, because what we were able to do was to build a different foundation, and we just put it out there, and the response was like amazing. Like, the people that you see were shuffled through a ton of people that sent things in.
So I was like, I'm going through and I'm reading everybody's profile, everybody's background. And so I had a question about when you're dating and you're about to become blended. Like, how do people navigate that dating scene before they actually make the commitment to become married and blend these families? Like, how are you guys helping or coaching them along that way? Or do you coach families that are dating?
We actually, ours is more so mentoring. So like the distinction between mentoring and coaching, where mentoring is just people that have kind of walked the journey or are walking the journey, and really it's like take a walk in my shoes, or I can tell you from what I've experienced. So really all mentoring in is giving wisdom from our own experience or from just experience or revelation that we receive regarding the topic. So as people are coming to us that have dated or are dating, the key thing for them is to identify, the biggest thing is, what are the cultural dynamics that they're going to bring into their relationship? What beliefs do you have about blended families? I mean, do you already just believe that the other mom is going to be a challenge to deal with? Is that a belief that you already have? So you're already going in there guarded. Mm-hmm. Do you automatically believe that, blended families always fail? So you got to work extra hard, but as you're doing that, you're kind of bucking up against unnecessary problems because nothing's happening.
Well, because you already have this cultural belief. And I'm so glad you brought it up. Like, I think that society plays a big role in how we view how the other person is going to interact with us. And we don't give the person a chance to show who they really are, or to build a relationship with that person because of outside influence and outside influences, and because of what society has already told us, that she gonna act crazy. She don't want you touching her kids. She don't know. But I think if you can sit down and have an open conversation with the person, then you guys can determine what works best for your family.
And you have to check yourself. Like, I literally had to check myself because my children have a stepmom and she's a different culture, and I had to check myself and what beliefs I believed that of what she was capable of doing and what she wasn't capable of doing, because we were bucking heads over something that we didn't necessarily need to be, but it was really because I had already predetermined she cannot do this. I didn't realize I predetermined it, but I had decided you're not able to do this, so you don't need to do it.
And that's it.
Right.
Y'all, the look she just gave me, I know if you gave that to that lady, I would be like, okay, then I'm taking my hands off of this.
But then it's like this, so it was a constant combative thing. And I'm like, and I had to get checked, like, who are you to say that she isn't capable of doing this just because you've been told that she may not be able to, or this, that, or other. So,
and see, that's the thing. I think it comes to two people having a conversation. See, I don't like that he said, she said, woulda, coulda, shoulda. We would have thought about asking these questions. If I could just have an open conversation with you about, hey, these are my expectations when my kids are with you. When they're with me, this is what's going to happen. When we trade off kids, like, this is going to be, let's build a relationship. But I think all too often, people come in there with their predetermined, she's going to be this already, and then you don't give it a chance. So when you said you had to check yourself, I said, what, you looked in that mirror and you was like, girl, you was tripping.
Yes.
Like, stop tripping today. Give this lady a chance. And so how's your relationship with her now?
I would say, well, they're not local. So, I mean, that makes a different dynamic too. So I don't really talk to her all the time. But from where it was at to where it's at now, like, we're definitely more cordial. When we see each other, we give each other a hug, we talk, you know. And it was not that way before.
And so did it take a long period of time? Because you know, there's so much. I'm so glad she's honest.
I had to grow. It was growth.
I'm so glad you're honest, because people automatically think when you're like, oh, we get along now, that it was automatic. And I think, like, it is a matter of growing, because let's face it, we as women, I want my household ran a certain type of way. I want my kid, like, put her to bed at 8 o'clock. I want her up and her teeth brushed and all this done by 9 o'clock. So we run our household a certain way. When you have to share that responsibility with someone.
And then I also have to realize I cannot navigate their household. I can give suggestions, but they're adults. Like, they can do whatever they want to do. And so I can't control their household. And that's the kind of relinquishing control and realizing they'll survive some of the stuff that is driving me crazy. They'll survive. They'll be okay. They'll survive.
And so, even speaking in that, do you find, though, that I don't know, because I don't know if you guys don't have this dynamic necessarily, or you might, but that when the kids are there, if you guys can't get along, then when the kids are with them, they're manipulating that side, and when the kids are with you, they're manipulating your side?
Oh, yeah, kids work the system. Like, they know if you're not getting along, you know, we don't always share from our side. We don't share. We don't share. But that's not always the case. So they know, like, who to go to for what. Kids are smart.
They figure out stuff fast.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Yes, they do figure out stuff fast.
Yeah, so they know who to go to for what. They know who's going to respond in what specific way. And now, though, we're on such the same page that we talk first. And for example, like my son, he wanted to play a sport, but I'd already told him, if this grade doesn't get up, you're not playing anything. Well, then he went and asked his dad, and his dad was like, let me talk to your mom.
And
we just ruined his whole world, because he was like, what? Like, yes, we're on the same. No, you are not. But the beauty in it is that his grade, like, shot up because he knew that we weren't playing.
And see, I think when parents and the bonus parents can attack things together, then you come out with a dynamic child that knows how to go out into this world, that can navigate the world in a different way, that can cope with situations that may arise, like relationship issues, because they've seen you guys work it out, and you've been able to work it out with maybe 4 or 3 parents involved.
Right.
And so that's an amazing thing to me. Okay, Rachel, what's the other book you brought us?
Oh,
I'm
okay.
Your books.
So these are the Better Than Blended books. These are actually for the couples. So it's a 6-week curriculum that people do in, like, the community centers. So if there's someone that wants to spearhead in their community centers, or churches doing, like, small group settings. And we've even had, like, counselors and therapists that are very interested in the product, because what they do is they kind of use this as their guide and then give the homework through there.
Okay.
So both of these, one is a faith-based and one is still faith-based, but it's been kind of tailored if someone is in a relationship with someone that maybe is not, you know, into the word and things like that as much.
I'm so proud of y'all for doing that, because you don't realize how many times, like, you know, people are unequally yoked. And I mean, we live in a world of unequally yoked people, and we just need to realize it, and we just need to start praying for those people. But I'm so glad that you guys took the initiative to have 2 versions of the book, for somebody who may understand and for somebody who may not understand. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you. And we didn't, like, the way that we wrote that one, it wasn't, we didn't take away the what needed to be said. Well, we kind of changed some things around. So rather than a prayer, is an affirmation, but they're still speaking the prayer. And so it's really written very strategically. And then this is just a scripture and prayer journal that goes with the 40 and 7 of all the scriptures that God gave me as I was working through my custody battle.
So you wrote this during your custody battle.
I did.
Ooh, girl, that's a brave soul right there. Hey, hi peeps, you are tuned into Just One Hot Mom. I'm here with Rachel Scott of Better Than Blended. We're going to take a short break and we're going to get you better when we come back. Stay tuned. Hey, hot peeps, welcome back. You're tuned into Just One Hot Mom, and I am here with Better Than Blended, Rachel Scott.
Hello.
And we are going to tell you guys about being better with your blended family. So over the break, Rachel and I were having a conversation, and she brought something to my attention that I didn't even think about. And you know what? Because you just think that people know stuff. You know what? We make a lot of assumptions. People don't even know sometimes that they're in a blended family. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? You just like your kids go over there and hang out with their dad, but there's this lady there too, and then they all are brothers and sisters, and you don't realize that you have mixed in. So people drag you into a blended family.
Right.
So how did your husband get dragged into a blended family?
Well, what I was telling her was that my husband, when we started this whole thing, didn't realize he was part of a blended family. So he was raised in a single parent home, and his dad had remarried. And so as we were talking about what a blended family was, he was like, well, I'm not a blended family. I'm like, your dad remarried. I was like, you have a stepmom. That's a blended family. He's like, really? Like, yeah. And so a lot of people don't realize it.
They don't. That's what I was like, even for non-married couples, people don't realize, like, your kids go over to somebody else's house. They share a sibling over there. They spend holidays together.
Right.
This person comes to school events. Like, for me, I go to school events. I will go to parent-teacher conferences if you need to tag me in. Like, it is what it is. But that's just my personality. But you know what? When you said that, I was like, oh, my God, we are blended. We're a blended family, people. And so, you know, it's just nice to know that there are other families out there dealing with some of the same things that you are dealing with. Because, you know, you feel alone when you go through some of these situations. Like, I know going through a custody battle, it's hard to explain to people who haven't been through a custody battle. And especially, say, for instance, if your partner hasn't been through a custody battle. So to have the books be available, I can tell you right now, I'm about to get the book because I need it in my life. But I wanted to more so talk to you about the relationships between the parents in this blended family. Like, so we all come from different walks and different backgrounds in life. And we all, like I said, society has given us what the standard is. And some of us stick to that standard and some of us don't. How do you feel the relationship should be between the parents? Like, should they all get along? Should they fake it for the kids? Should they try to come together and have conversations? Should they spend holidays together? Like, how should these families work together to become better for the kids, specifically the parents?
I think that both sets of parents should be willing to grow. And with that being said, I think that it's really based off of, you have to take into consideration the fact that we're not together for a reason. So let's first address the fact that as parents, the original set of parents, we're not together for a reason. So we have to first assess, how do we work together when we're not together for a specific reason? Once we work through those dynamics of removing our personal issues out of the way, then we can focus on raising the children together. But if we're still living in the past of our personal issues and not realizing that those should be pushed to the back so that we can raise the children together, it really just is hard. And then when you're bringing somebody else, right, you're bringing other people into the situation. And I have not really fully embraced that we're not together for a reason. So I'm still angry at why we're not together or whatever it may be. Or say the other person identifies it. One of the key things is recognizing if you are feeling a certain type of way about the relationship and it not being what it was. Because what tends to happen is you act out of whatever emotional space you're in. You just act it out. I mean, so whether you're the one like, I'm good, like it's over, I'm glad it's done, and the other person is still healing from it, then it's going to be challenging to parent because they're going to be parenting from their healing. And so sometimes we just have to first look at that and say, well, how can we come together and just kind of be okay with the fact that we're not together, we're not going to be together, and we've both moved on. Because there's times where people move on, but they're still emotionally connected to someone else or to the previous relationship because of maybe how it ended or why it ended or things that they didn't resolve within themselves for it to end. And so as parents, though, we need to look and say, we are the ones that are supposed to pour into these children that need to raise them. If we don't get ourselves together to make them better, then what chance do they have?
And see, I think it's important too, because I was more so like for the ladies, this is just my own personal dealings, that it's sometimes harder for us to get along or to accept the fact that our lives have changed and they're going to be different now. And so that's more of understanding. I think like woman to woman, especially if we have daughters, it's important to show them that women can get along, that we can interact with each other, despite that we may not act the same, we may be completely, totally different, come from different walks of life, but we can get along based on the fact that of the love that we have for you.
Right. I agree with that.
And so I'm always wondering though, like, why do you think, see, for me, like earlier you said it wasn't, but for me it seems like it's always harder for the ladies to understand. And so why do you think that is? Or do you think it at all?
I do. Because I think because we're more emotional and men are more logical. So logically, we got to take care of these kids. Let's move forward. Well, women, we're like, well, no, because the last thing she said to me was ... And no, we need to address that. So because we are more emotionally, we respond more emotionally, and men they're just more logical. So it is easier for them. They have their challenges though, but ours often seem like the bigger ones. Only because we'll verbalize ours, where they just won't say anything. They're too busy dealing with ours to even say what they're doing. They're like,
so you
I
can't have your
this.
emotional moment because I'm having mine.
Right. So you have to deal with it.
Because I was always wondering, like, I'm always telling people, like, I think that if women can have a conversation, if we can learn, like, okay, I might not like these 3 things about you, but I'm going to put that to the side and I'm going to embrace these things about you, that it makes it easier. I'm not saying that, I don't even know if easier is the word I want to use. It makes it possible for you to have that connection. I think it's better for everyone involved when you can be connected in that type of way to say, hey, because I know for a fact these kids will try to get over on you if you do not stay connected with the other person.
Well, let me say this, 2 words, growth and maturity. And unfortunately, everybody is not on the same page with both of those areas. So where you can say, let's just make this about the kids, someone else's growth or someone else's maturity, they may not be able to do that yet. So in our minds, we just think like it is what it is, and it's about what it's about. It's about the kids. If both parents aren't at the same page, on the same page when it comes to that, and if the other lady isn't, then you can't force that to happen. All you can do is be consistent with where you are. So you're not going to go down to the level she's at. You're going to continue to stay up here and say, okay, well, when you're ready to come up, I'll be up here ready. And so when they do come around, not looking at all the years that they were maybe not as mature, or maybe they didn't have the growth that they needed, but saying, okay, you ready? Let's go forth.
See, I like to see, she just answered my other question. I was like, okay, give us some tips to have this conversation. But I like the fact that, you're saying, like, keep moving forward, keep progressing, because no matter what, you want to be better for the sake of the family.
Right.
And then eventually, hopefully, as life happens, they come up and you guys can collectively...
Now, can I say this other thing?
Oh, look, Rachel about to get me. Go ahead.
Let me just put this out there. Sometimes, and I'm speaking because I've experienced this part, sometimes we focus too much on the other person, and we don't do it intentionally. We do it because we have this mindset like, let's just get along, let's just move forward. But sometimes it becomes a barrier to our own growth and our ability to parent the way that child needs to be parented, because while that person may not be where we want them to be, whatever you're able to give them at whatever level you're at, that's fine. And I'm gonna give them what I need to at the level that I'm at, and we're just gonna move forward. So sometimes I've seen it happen often, and I've even fallen into this trap where it kind of hindered me from moving forward because I was stuck on, like, we need to be doing better. Like, this needs to be better than what it is.
And so you're saying more effectively do it for you. Do it for yourself. Focus on your own growth and maturity, and then you won't have to worry about everybody else. If it happens for them, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you are, see, I told y'all it's about securing yourself first. I don't know if y'all don't get that through your head. Secure yourself first and make yourself better before you can go back and say you need to be better too. Because that's a lot of times what we do is like, I'm mature about this, and you point the finger, and then nothing good comes of that.
And it becomes this competitive thing. Like, I'm not in competition with you. I'm in competition with the best me. So
y'all heard
you're
her?
not my competition. Just because we may fall under a similar mindset, like, okay, you are a mother figure, I'm a mother figure, we are not the same person. So you're not my competition. You'll never be my competition. I'm in competition with my best me. So am I my best me? That's all that matters.
See, become your best version of yourself, you guys, and you'll do better. So here's another question. Statistically speaking, in the church, we're going to bring up the church. I told Rachel I was going to go in on it. That the church, we have these relationships and it's frowned upon to get a divorce. If you get a divorce and then you remarry and you go through all this other stuff, do you think the church is as supportive as they should be of blended families?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
But let me add to that. The reason I believe is that there is a fear that supporting blended families equals supporting divorce, right?
See,
but that's not the case. I heard someone say that you don't not have a ministry for someone that has a drug addiction because you have that ministry means that you condone drugs. You have it because they need healing. And so really what I believe needs to happen is that the church needs to change their mindset. Because if you read through the Bible, how many blended families are, first of all, it would probably be easier to count how many traditional families it is than all the blended families that are in the Bible, which lets you know that this is something that's been going on for a long time. You can't run from it. But when you don't speak to that dynamic, then you are not speaking to the core. So your church, in my opinion, this is just Rachel's opinion, tag Rachel's opinion, your church is not as strong as it could be because you're not strengthening the core, which is oftentimes blended families.
And see, that's the thing. I think that when I was coming up with that question, I was like, it's not that you're saying, yay, divorce, or when something happens, break, run, because you can always get another significant other, you can always get another spouse. It's just that we need to really acknowledge that some of these marriages are broken to a point where you probably do need to separate. You need to go your separate ways. You need to figure your own life out. And if you come back and you figure it out with that person, kudos. But if not, then you should open the door for them to be able to start another life with another person and to have a family with that person.
And you should be, I think that the overall thing is that if they have started this new life, how can I support it so that they don't? Because the rate of re-divorce after getting married or remarriage is even higher. So as a leader, my goal should be to get that rate lower. So how can I make sure that I'm helping them do it better the next time around? Not focus on how well they didn't do the first time around, because it's not always just divorce that leads to blended families. It's the loss of a parent. It's adoption. There's so many other things. And why are we not speaking into those people? Because life as a blended family is different than life as a traditional family.
Okay, so I'm going to bring this up. I just thought this up, ladies and gents. What about those families? Like, say, for instance, they have single ministries in churches. And, there are two people that get together that may have. Why do you think we're not speaking into that, too? Like, don't you want to start something for those type of families? Like, we have families that come into the church that are already married and they're blended. But what about those people that are already in your church that are single, that start dating each other and become a blended family? Why don't you think we're not offering them the support as well? Like, you guys are putting them in the single ministry together. You know what I'm saying? You have these singles ministry, you're doing these mixes and they come together, yet you're not supporting the fact that they have these families. You're only doing it from the part of them being single and coming together as a couple and not as a family.
I think it's hard to support something that you don't understand. And it's also hard to support something that you don't have resources to help them with. Because honestly, if I'm someone that is a blended family and I'm coming to you and you're not a blended family, whether you're a pastor or not, how I'm going to receive what you say is still going to be kind of like, well, you may get it, you may not. So I think that it's just really hard to support something that you don't fully understand and then you don't have resources to even lead them to. So you kind of just say, well, I'm just going to lump them into this category of single and getting married because it's pretty much the same.
Well, churches, I'm going to put it out there. There's this resource called Better Than Blended. And so if you're looking to improve your single people's lifestyle so that they can be married and become a blended family, you need to look into that. I'm just saying because the resources are available and sometimes you have to look outside of the church. Like sometimes you have to step outside of your comfort zone and say, okay, we can't fix this, but here's something that can. And then you bring those resources in and you offer it. I feel like it's we are the church, so it's up to us to take the church to the streets and bring that back into the church. But too often we don't do that. We just hear of one type of church and that's the only type of church there is, and this is how it's been and this is how it's always going to be. And I just don't think that's fair for people who are trying to move forward in their lives.
And now this is just me defending the church, is that blended families is something new. So this is like a new, sudden, fast change of family dynamic. And I think it's moving faster than they're ready to respond to it. So they just have to get a hold of the resources and then kind of put some walls down, because at the same time they're covering this flock, and they got to make sure that whatever they're giving them is something that they're in agreement with. And sometimes that's hard because there's so many different doctrines and beliefs and things like that.
You're right.
So it can make it touchy.
I agree. So I wanted to ask you, are there any tips that you can give to people that are dating that could potentially become a blended family? What tips would you offer? Give us 3 tips for those type of families, like they're not married, but they're dating and they're strongly thinking of joining forces. What tips are you giving those people?
I would say have some good, strong conversation about your background, how your family grew up, how you handled discipline, how you handled traditions, family traditions, what kind of things mattered and were important to you that you would want to keep hold to, and how would you handle that dynamic within your home. So I guess maybe that's tip number 2. Tip number 2 would be how would you handle that dynamic within your home. So I may not agree with how you handle discipline, so we need to come up with a system within our house that we're both on the same page, so that I don't get frustrated because you're handling in a way that I'm not in agreement with, and you don't get frustrated because you feel like I'm not disciplined well enough. So just having those hard conversations that really are going to matter will probably be tip number 2 of how you're going to handle things within your home. And then the third thing is to always find ways to improve yourself. So like my husband and I, we go on one conference at least a year. We try to do like a marriage conference once a year, and we're always reading, listening. I don't know if like listening to books is the same as reading them, but someone told me it was, right? So I'm gonna go with that.
Well, most of the time it's the author reading it.
Yeah, so I feel like it's a pass, right?
I feel like you can go like, yay.
Yeah, and then if it's really good, I'll buy the book and then underline
and highlight stuff.
So like reading together and listening to something together, so that you can have conversation that broadens your perspective on things. So going to a conference, reading together, and listening to something. It could be a podcast that you are like, this is a great marriage podcast, or this is a great relationship podcast. So you listen to it on the ride home, I'll listen to it on the ride home, and let's talk through it.
And see, that's what I like, though. The foundation is based upon the relationship that has blended the family. And that way, if you guys can grow together, then you can outpour that into all other areas of you guys' lives. So
I got to say there's one more thing.
Uh-oh.
That's the last one. Praying together.
Ooh.
Like, that is absolutely, like, the times that we pray together, we make it through some things that when we're not praying together, we can tell the difference. Our relationship is better able to handle things. That when we're not, it's like this outside situation just tore us up. But when we're praying together, we're like, I don't even want to, I guess we got to pray. I don't want to, but then by the end of prayer, we're like, okay.
And that's for people who say that like we said in the book, if they don't pray, affirmation together. Like, if that makes you feel better. But I think you just need to know that there are words that can heal. And once you get those healing words and you get them going, then you'll feel better about the situation.
Right.
But all too often, we don't speak those healing words. We speak those words of anger, those words of fire. Not the kind of fire I do, my passion and stuff. But we just don't speak those healing words. And therefore, we leave wounds open. And we cause greater wounds when we don't do that.
Absolutely.
So you and your crew, blended family. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Oh, goodness.
So we're going to get to know Rachel a little bit during this last part.
So I have my little baby, Aaron, who's 2, and he is the boss of the house. And then Gabrielle, we call her our love baby because she just loves love. She just loves everybody, and she's just always trying to be on top of everything. And then Dominique, we call her our attorney at law because she will get you together. She knows the facts, and she will make sure that you know them as well. And Darius, he's just everything. Like he's into everything. He's like he's a straight A student. He's into every possible thing he can get into: bands, sports, after school clubs. He just loves to just be doing stuff. So that's his thing. And then we have Autumn, and Autumn is our like helpful hand. She's our 16-year-old. But she's just so sweet, and she's like mini mommy, so she's like a mini version of me sometimes.
She got things together at home right now. She gets
things together at home. Yes, she does. And she's like really good when it comes to just bringing people together and just unity with her friends. And it's like she's involved in a lot of things too. Like those two keep us active and stuff because they're active and stuff. Like she does cheerleading.
I'm tired already. He was like, he likes basketball.
Right. And she sings. Oh my gosh, her voice is beautiful. Yes. And then Willie, we call him our comedian because he's just funny. I don't care what's going on around him, he'll make something funny out of it. And he's just real laid back. Like he's a guy, he's laid back and he loves to fix stuff. He's Mr. Fix It too. Mm-hmm. And then Tone is our teddy bear. He's the oldest one, but he's just so sweet. But he's like a big kid. Like he's 21.
I'm gonna kill you for that right now. Like, I'm a teddy bear.
And he looks out for everybody. Like that's big brother. He's gonna take care. If we call him for anything, like he's like, I'm there. So
see, I had a reason behind asking that question.
Okay.
I wanted to hear if you're watching, you see it, and if you're listening, you can hear it in her voice. She spoke with such love about each individual child, and I think people sometimes miss that. Like, okay, I know, so I can give you the list of the kids
right.
and not be able to tell you anything about them, their personalities, their heart, what they like, what they don't like, who they are as a person. But it is possible, people, to have a blended family. Like when you talked about each one of them, you were like, and this one is this one, and this one is this one. I just wanted people to see that, they're your babies. Like it's possible to have this type of family, to care for mm-hmm. children that you didn't necessarily give birth mm-hmm. to, but that you're helping to birth through their dreams and your dreams of them right. having a better life. So I'm so excited that you came on the show today and you shared your life with us. It's hard. Like I tell people, it's hard to be transparent. And you and I had this conversation on the phone earlier. But once you decide to live that transparent life, you really lift the weight off of yourself and you allow people to come in and you allow other people to heal while you're doing your healing.
Right. Yep.
So can you drop your information for us? 'Cause I'm sure there's some families out there who are like, oh, I got a question.
Right.
Y'all go investigate the website. I'm telling y'all, it answers a lot of questions. Like I was like, oh, I might not even need to ask this question because it was answered here. But can you drop the family's information so that we can get in touch with you if we need to?
Absolutely. So our website is betterthanblended.com. And then our Facebook handle, our Facebook social media handle is facebook.com/betterthanblended. And we have our Twitter is actually twitter.com/betterthanblend because they didn't have blended. And then the Instagram, right, just give me those last two letters. And then we have Instagram, which is instagram.com/betterthanblended. And we also have some things on YouVersion.
Okay, so her information will also be available at justonehotmom.com. We're going to add it to this. So if you guys go over, the replay will be available on elevationsradio.com. It'll also be available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And you can go view us on YouTube once it's up and running. I'm just excited that there is a place like you guys available out there, because I'm sure that there were once upon a time, like when my parents were going through becoming a blended family. I don't even think that's what it was called, like your stepmama and your stepdaddy and you go and do this with them, but that there's a place available for people to get assistance, to get the help that they need to become better families, and that's what it's all about. So leave us with your words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom, I would just say my number one thing is to pray together as a couple. And make sure that you are always knowing that you have to be accountable for your own self. You're not in competition with anyone. You're in competition with the best you.
Oh, see, and that's all that we can do, ladies and gents, is just to remember that you are your own biggest and greatest competition. And if you can figure out how to better compete with yourself, then your family will be better for it. I wanted to remind you guys that Just One Hot Mom will be doing a Black History, Black Love blog come February 14th. So send your Black Love photos to justonehotmom@gmail.com so that we can feature you. We can show people that there is some history in our love. Also, we will still be doing the Hot Mommy of the Month. So please send your suggestions, or let's give some praise. Let's encourage and inspire some people with the hot moms that are in our life. And you can send those over to justonehotmom@gmail.com. And of course, you can follow me on all my social media at Just One Hot Mom. I am on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all those other places that you can find me. And I'll leave you guys with these words. is that family is family, no matter how it's created, whether it's something that you birthed together with your marriage partner, with your significant other. No matter what you do, your family is your family, and it's based upon you to make the decision of how you're going to run that family and how you guys are going to define yourselves. You've been tuned into Just One Hot Mom. I am so happy that I am back and up off my sick bed, you guys. So be sure to meet us here every Friday at elevationsradio.com, 7 p.m. I promise I'm going to bring you all that fire, all that flavor, all that heat, all that sauce, and so much more from around your neighborhood and in your world. You ready to take us out, Robin? All right. Catch you soon.